Welcome, everyone, to another YVCOG Cog-Cast. Today, I am talking with Alan, who is the Transportation Planning Manager here at YVCOG, and we're going to be talking about just one specific area of transportation. There's a lot of different areas, but we're going to narrow it down and just take one bite at a time as we are going through transportation. So today we're going to talk about a specific plan that is new that we are developing for the region. Can you share with us a little bit, Alan, how this came about and why we're creating this plan?
Yes. For years, our local jurisdictions have been doing something called safety action plans. That's a document that they use to look at the safety needs within their jurisdictions. Usually they would apply for local and state funding to address those. It could be everything from sidewalks to major reconstruction projects. With the current federal transportation bill, they passed funding that can look at bringing more federal dollars into that effort. And so we are developing a regional safety action plan, which will basically take all the different jurisdictions, all the things they're doing, and bring it under one document. So maybe we can start addressing those safety issues, not on a case-by-case basis, but region-wide in a topic or an issue or a safety concern strategy and make things safer faster.
So, for instance, you had said some communities maybe were looking at sidewalks. If that became a major issue in the entire Yakima Valley, maybe we could go through and address sidewalks in all of the different communities at the same time.
Correct. Most grants still require the jurisdiction apply individually. And so Wapato could be competing against SELA for the same kind of funding, and one or the other or neither might get funded. With this, it's called Safe Streets and Roads for All, or SS4A for short. It gives us the opportunity to do a multi-jurisdictional request. So your Wapatos, your SELAs, your Grandviews, and everybody else, if they have that same type of sidewalk safety issue they want to address, then we submit an application for a region-wide, all the jurisdictions who want to be part of that partnership and apply for it and solve that kind of sidewalk problem altogether instead of having to compete. You still would have to compete across national applications, but at least it gives us an opportunity to address a problem in our region in ways we've never been able to before.
Yeah, that is a great idea. And we're seeing this in a lot of our different funding where the funders are saying, show us the needs in the entire valley.
Correct.
And let's either prioritize those needs and knock them off one at a time, or let's look at how we can solve this need throughout the entire valley. So our cities are not having to compete against our cities. It's now the whole Yakima Valley area, and we may be competing against Kittitas County. Each of us is looking at our entire area, correct?
That is correct. We and it goes beyond just projects. So as I mentioned, crosswalks could be a type of project, sidewalks, major infrastructure improvements, such as roundabouts. If there is a systemic issue amongst multiple jurisdictions on intersection safety and collisions, here's an opportunity that you could apply for a multi-million-dollar grant, and it might be 2 or 3 locations around. But we also want to be able to get into those areas of education and awareness that between now and, say, a major construction project is performed, what can our jurisdictions do and our different partners around the county do to help bring awareness to maybe that kind of intersection and how you might want to change your driving habits in the meantime, while those efforts by the jurisdictions move forward to try to get some of this state and federal funding, safety funding. And if that eliminates a fatality, reduces the number of collisions because people are more aware of those issues, then that is also a great thing and keeps our residents safer.
Yeah, I like this idea. So tell me about the action plan. What are you going to be doing?
We have 3 basic steps. First is data gathering. And the first step of that step is to work with our member jurisdictions to look at what their identified safety issues are. Usually that starts with tracking their existing accident data. So that usually includes fatality accidents, injury accidents, non-injury accidents. So it could be property type damage only. And gather all that information, start doing a little analysis on what seems to be similar amongst all the jurisdictions. Then we'll start reaching out to first responders who deal with incidents or are aware of road zones where people maybe haven't gotten into an accident, but they see things. And so we want to be able to get feedback from that second tier group of eyes on the road, so to speak, and social service organizations, transit agencies as well. Third will be the public at large. And that is in part, again, to look at areas where thankfully there have never been any accidents or fatalities, but it's still a location where the public feels maybe uncomfortable. A popular term in the industry right now is user anxiety. So you might be walking down and it's maybe an existing sidewalk, but if traffic is moving too quickly or it's a very wide road with a lot of traffic, even though you're safely on the sidewalk, you still might feel anxious about doing that. And are there potential mitigations or enhancements to the infrastructure that you can do to help make that anxiety go down? It's a common topic for pedestrians, for bicyclists who maybe use bike lanes and still have a bit of unease in their safety. Again, addressing that on a region-wide basis is a hope that as we become more regionalized and people travel between our communities, that they can do so in many transportation forms, bicycling, walking, transit, and feel safe going from that point A to point B.
So you said that the third part is public at large. What does that mean? What does that look like?
That is your resident. That is your coworker. That is you traveling to and from your job. It is your children traveling to and from school. It is your cousins, your family, your spouse, your friends. It's anybody who transverses our county, and that's virtually everybody. One aspect that we're hoping to do in the last several years, there's been a lot of transportation development in a variety of modes. There's possibilities of passenger rail returning to our region. The city of Yakima is looking at doing what they can to support C-tax capacity issues with maybe additional flights coming into Yakima. You've got the different trail efforts by the Yakima Nation and the Greenway. So you're having a lot more opportunities for these different modes to come in contact and conflict with each other. And when you have that, you do run the risk of a negative experience, an injury, a fatality occurring between those modes. So this is a proactive attempt to not only look at the past where we've had documented accidents, the present where we're looking at where people are traveling and where they feel uncomfortable, but also trying to forecast where there's potential for safety conflict amongst modes and start looking at mitigations to do that while we're doing some of our regular road construction and preservation and maintenance actions amongst the different jurisdictions.
So how is the community involved? What can they do? How can they make sure that their voice is heard?
Throughout the spring and summer, we will be engaging in a variety of different public participation activities. First, there will be a interactive webpage, questionnaires, surveys, an opportunity to go onto a web page and you can put a little pin on a map electronically and then comment about why that area is of concern of safety. So it's a great way to reach out to the most people, especially those who maybe don't get to travel but still have internet capability. We also will be setting up booths, pop-up events at community days events throughout the spring and summer, social service events where you might have multiple agencies doing events. An example of that might be the Veterans Stand Down that they have in October. Other festivals and times that we might have opportunities we'll be doing. So those would be in-person events. We also hope to have some online open houses where people can attend through Zoom or Teams formats, where they can participate and do some of those same activities to provide us information, both in the data gathering components early in the process and later in some of the feedback later in the activity. This is anticipated to be about an 18-month process. Might be a little longer if we're getting a lot of good information and data. And then again, we have this repository of data that the jurisdictions can then use as they move forward on developing partnerships or applying for funding, a loan if that is an option for that particular type of safety concern.
What comes to my mind is who are our partners? Those public transit and or school districts that are transporting kids. There's a lot of other agencies also that are probably concerned about transportation and making sure that it is safe not only for people on the roads, but for those on sidewalks, on bicycles, on trails, at the airport, you name it. So who are our partners?
Well, our first line are our city in Yakima County. So we got the 14 cities and towns of Yakima County. Yakima County itself, WSDOT, Washington State Department of Transportation. We're hoping to have significant engagement with the Yakima Nation. And so, as I mentioned, all of them already perform some degree of safety analysis and improvements as they are. The next grouping, again, is some of those transportation service providers who are on the road, who are taking care of the other modes of transportation, either directly or indirectly. Those your greenway, your transit systems, as you mentioned, stakeholder groups, nonprofit organizations who advocate for various transportation needs or improvements. And so that everybody brings in their 2 cents to the effort, and there is no bad suggestions. A major improvement can always start with one small idea or recommendation and see how it matures and grows from there. And again, the public is the most eyes on the subject, the ones who may not necessarily be familiar with maybe a certain road that they might not travel very often, but realize that they do have some concerns about it and they can bring it up. So it doesn't have to be you only talking about the roads you travel on a daily basis. You could be visiting another part of the county and experience, again, some of that anxiety, depending on the transportation mode that you are undertaking at the time. And when we have that opportunity for public participation, that would be a great time to share that concern so that can be shared with the respective jurisdiction who oversees that transportation mode infrastructure.
So when we first started this conversation, you said there are a lot of our cities already have a safety plan within their city. So what is the benefit of doing a safety action plan for the entire valley? Is there a cost savings for the people who live here with their cities? What are those benefits to have something that is actually for the entire valley? Or why don't we just bring in all of their plans and just try to put something together?
You actually mentioned a little while ago about how even our lawmakers are wanting to see more regional strategies in dealing with transportation. A lot of that comes from the fact that they are also facing tight budgets and trying to figure out how to still provide a public good when the resources to fund that isn't always necessarily there. And that's the case whether it's local, state, or federal dollars, and the grant programs that have historically funded some of this, that it doesn't necessarily grow as fast as the realities of today's transportation world needs. So being part of this regional plan that's funded through, again, the Safe Streets and Roads for All program is another level of funding, another source of funding, and again, allows you to look at addressing several areas. You do get an economies of scale opportunity when you're trying to do multiple things, even if they're spread out throughout the county, where you can mobilize more easily with your construction company, or you're going to have similar engineering items to address for that particular safety concern, and you can do that. So planning, coordinating, hopefully also saves money and allows you to put more money into the construction or the preservation than the planning. At the same time, what you don't want to have is a reduction in the opportunity for the public to engage in that process as well, because the jurisdictions would still do their open houses and other stuff. But just finding more efficient ways of doing it, finding better ways, best practices, not only in planning and outreach, but also best practices in design and engineering, and where that can save money to get you more bang for your buck, in this case on a regional basis, instead of a whole bunch of individual projects.
Right. And we know that some of our members, some of our cities already do that. So if one of our cities knows, hey, there's somebody coming in that's going to put a new road surface down, the grind and overlay. So they're going to put a new surface down in one city. Maybe they will contract with that same vendor to come and do their city at the same time because they get a better deal because they're already here in the area.
Correct.
So that really is what the concept is to be able to, if we do it all at the same time, get a discount because they're not having to pack everything up, go back to wherever they came from, and then come back to our valley again and unload and try to find workers. And
The other thing that you also don't want to have is if everybody's going through this process individually and it takes multiple years to do that, there might be changes in how it's recommended that an improvement be addressed. So by the time you get to maybe that sixth, seventh, eighth jurisdiction doing project X, whatever that is, when the first jurisdiction did it all those years before, they might now have to come back and maybe do some enhancements to maybe meet current accessibility laws and stuff like that. If you can do it all within that same general time frame, again, you get the savings because you can maybe do less bid processes. You do it as one joint. Cost of materials goes down because you're buying a larger in bulk. Kind of your Costco philosophy on buying in bulk. Same applies for construction. So you can find tax savings there as well. And again, it takes that type of safety problem off the table and now allows you to go to this next issue and solve that problem on a region basis. It's been our observation over the years that the more work that can be done regionally tends to be, not always, but tends to be funded a little bit more often because it is showing a partnership, a bringing together of communities to address a problem that has a much bigger positive footprint on the back end. If you've done a project style that reduces fatalities or serious bodily injury, then that's saving your community money, it's saving time and effort across society. And again, you have the benefit of people not being injured or fatally lost to our communities. So there's unforeseen benefits for addressing these kind of safety concerns on a regional basis as well.
So thank you. I am excited to watch this unfold, to see what the community has to say about safety when it comes to roads traveled, sidewalks, what maybe some of their concerns are and how they feel we should address them, because it is their money. Mm-hmm. It always comes back to these services are only provided because of them, and it's their money. We want to make sure that we are good stewards of that.
And we will be reaching out through social media announcements, hopefully some maybe news articles and advertisements, public meetings, again, maybe through city councils and whatnot. So there's going to be several ways of learning more about when we'll be having our in-person and online activities, and really look forward for people to participate.
Yeah. And we will make sure that that information gets out to your individual cities. So if you enjoyed this Cog-Cast, please click the like and subscribe button, share with your friends, and we are excited about seeing you at our next Cog-Cast. Have a great day.